learn a very interesting concept that the Midrash says that whatever Hashem tells us to do, He does Himself. And how do we know that? He says, Asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav, that He have sanctified us in His mitzvot. So, and besides not only that, being a good boss, being a good example, He says, if I'm asking you to do something, let me show you how it's done. When I want to tell my kids to clean the house, I start cleaning it myself. Tell them this is how it has to be done. So the same way, the Kadosh Baruch Hu does the mitzvot the same way what He tells us to do. That's what the Midrash says. And we learn it from a pasuk that we say pretty often, Magid Dvarav leYaakov. The pasuk continues, says, Chukav u'mishpatav lebet Israel, but the verse says, Magid Dvarav leYaakov. He says His words to Jacob, meaning to the sons of Israel. And we learn from that the Kadosh Baruch Hu does all the mitzvot like we do. Now, there's a place in the Talmud, in Masechet Brachot, that it says that the Kadosh Baruch Hu puts tefillin. That He actually, like we put tefillin in the morning, so the Kadosh Baruch Hu also puts tefillin. That's what the Talmud says. And not only that, it says in the Talmud that the Kadosh Baruch Hu is called a Kohen, a priest. In the last couple of weeks we were learning a lot about the priests. Last week's parasha, half of the parasha was dedicated just for the priests. All their rights, all their obligations, what they allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do, who they can marry, when they can marry. But the Talmud says that the Kadosh Baruch Hu is also called a priest. Now, if all the mitzvot that we do, at least the majority of them, are physical, how is the Kadosh Baruch Hu doing the mitzvah? What, the straps of tefillin in the world above? How is the Kadosh Baruch Hu putting tefillin? And how Kadosh Baruch Hu exactly is a priest in the world above? Since most of the mitzvot that we do here are physical, whether it's talit or tefillin or mezuzah or sukkah or etrog, or most of the mitzvot, of course there's a lot of mitzvot that are emotional and mental and intellectual, but the majority of the mitzvot are physical. So of course comes the question, how is it possible that Hashem does physical mitzvot? Now, in general, this is not everybody's agenda, but in general, we have as humans that are believers, and doesn't matter from which faith you are, we want to get in the world to come to a better place. Go now to any person, Jew, non-Jew, and non-Jews from many different religions, then you ask what's the general idea after this world, because most religions do believe in there's a life after this life, that this is not one stop. And everybody has the same idea. Yeah, we want to go to heaven, to a better place. I'm not waiting to go from here to I don't know, to Mars. I'm going to heaven. This is the general idea of most beliefs. Now, if you call it heaven, Gan Eden, a better place, whatever it is, but we all want to go to a much better place after we leave this world. That's at least what we have as our agenda. When you ask a person why you observant, or why you fulfill mitzvot, or do you believe that there's a God? Yeah, the answer will be revolving around that there's something waiting in the world to come. Even when it comes in a very negative way, even look at the belief of terrorists that if they will commit suicide and kill people, they'll go to heaven and get 72 virgins. I mean, even a distorted way, there is the idea that I'm going to get something in the world to come. So if you want to look at it close to home, everybody wants to go to Gan Eden, to heaven. There's thousands of jokes with hell and heaven. So now comes the question, okay, we agree that we all want to go to Gan Eden, to heaven after I leave this world, but what do you do there all day long? Anybody saw like a promotional video of what's waiting there? Is there like tours? Is like, what do you do there? They watch movies? Like, what do you do in Gan Eden all day long? Yeah, music, spa, maybe massages, maybe you sleep all day long. I think Gan Eden, everybody has their idea of Gan Eden. One person just wants to eat cakes all day long. Another person wants to be sleeping. But the point is, that, what do you do there all day long? And in Gan Eden, there's no time. It's eternity. So do I have a schedule? When I wake up in the morning and pray? And is there lunch till 10 a.m. and the buffet closes? They're like, what's going on there? So what really do we do in Gan Eden all day long? The Talmud says you learn Torah. That's what I do there. What, I'm registering to a university, to a yeshiva, all day long I'm going to be learning Torah? That doesn't sound so great. I mean, for some people it is. I mean, I'll be very happy there just to sit and learn Torah all day long. But how do you learn Torah in the world above? You know, there's a story that when Hashem decided to give us the Torah, then the angels were very upset. I'm talking about the very high level angels. There's different levels of angels. The high level angels were very upset, saying, how are you giving the Torah to human beings? We should get it. We are like the top level angels. We should get the Torah. So Hashem says, okay, you know what? How about I bring the representative of the humans and he will answer you. So he brings Moshe Rabbeinu and he tells Moshe Rabbeinu, answer these angels, why are you getting the Torah and not them? Moshe Rabbeinu was like, what? Why are you bringing me to this job? I don't want to answer this job. I'm afraid of them. He sees these massive, huge angels. It's described that they're like fiery angels, and Moshe Rabbeinu sees these humongous angels. Like, I don't want to talk to them. I'm afraid of them. They'll burn me. So Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, put your hand on my chair and answer them. So Moshe Rabbeinu was a smart individual, and he tells them, okay, you want to know why we humans got the Torah? Let's see what it says in the Torah. Let's pull out the 10 commandments. So it goes one commandment after the other, and it says, what's the first commandment? I am your God that took you out of Egypt. Moshe Rabbeinu says, you weren't in Egypt. We were in Egypt. Oh, well, good answer. Then he goes to the next commandment. You should not have any other God but me. Moshe says, can you have an option of having another God? Is there another God here in the heavens? In the world below, there's many gods, fake gods. But in the world above, there's only one God. There's not even an option of having more gods. And he goes one after the other. Goes to the fourth commandment, to observe the Shabbat. Can you observe Shabbat? We observe Shabbat. Fifth commandment, honor your father and mother. Tells the angels, do you have a father and mother? Angels don't have fathers and mothers. We have fathers and mothers. We have to honor, respect our parents. Commandment number 6, you cannot kill. Says the angels, you kill each other? You can't kill. You can't kill an angel. And go to 7 and 8 and 9, don't commit adultery. It's like, you can commit adultery in the world above. We commit adultery. We steal. We cheat. We have jealousy. So he concluded by saying, you see, the Torah is given for us humans. Because everything in the Torah is talking about us. That's not talking about you. Therefore, we got the Torah. So, how can one learn Torah in the world above that if you really look in the Torah, most of the Torah has to do with this world? And not only has to do with this world, it has to do with physical things. It has to do with things that are connected to human things and physical things. For example, you know, a few weeks ago, we learned in the Parashot Tazriya Metzorah, 2 parashot we dedicated to all the afflictions of tzarat, of leprosy. And we went into a lot of the details, what type it is and how it looks and how you would recognize it and what color. And so, for example, it was giving an example, if the bruise, if the affliction is white, then it means one thing. If it's red, so how is that going to do with the world above? What is it, leprosy in the world above? Does they have bruises in the world above, or scabs, or leprosy? It doesn't make sense that they learn Torah in the world above, and everything the Torah is talking about, just imagine, the Torah took 2 whole parashot just to talk about leprosy. There's no leprosy in the world above, it's a skin disease. There's no skin in Gan Eden. So all this doesn't really make sense. First of all, how can it be that the Kadosh Baruch Hu, that Hashem is doing physical mitzvot? There's nothing physical in the world above. And not only that, how do souls learn Torah? I mean, I like the idea that we learn Torah, but how do the souls learn Torah when the Torah is all about this world? More than that, it becomes even a little bit more complicated, because Hashem doesn't do all the mitzvot. He only does some of the mitzvot. There's a few mitzvot that the Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't do. So that's already puts us in an unclear situation. In one way it says that he does all the mitzvot that he tells us to do, but then we know that there's certain mitzvot that he doesn't do. For example, there's one parasha that it says that the Kadosh Baruch Hu, that a Kohen is not allowed to be impure by a dead corpse or any other things, but mainly with a dead corpse. Only few people, the Kohen is allowed to be contaminated by a dead corpse. But nevertheless, if this is the case, and we know that the Talmud says that Kadosh Baruch Hu is a Kohen, so how did he bury Moshe Rabbeinu? You know, Moshe Rabbeinu was buried by Hashem. Nobody knows where's his burial. And some individuals like Elijah, Eliyahu Navi, we know he went up to Shamayim with his body. But Moshe Rabbeinu, we know that he was buried. It says in the Torah that nobody knows where the burial is. Obviously there's a burial and there's a grave. So must be that Kadosh Baruch Hu buried him. How is he burying a dead person? And if he's a Kohen, and then he can get impure for that, obviously Hashem didn't bury him, or he did, or puts us in a lot of confusion. I'm just bringing all these questions because we started by saying that the Kadosh Baruch Hu does all the mitzvot. And since there's going to be a lot of questions, and specifically people behind the screen, they can't ask questions. How can it be that Hashem is doing mitzvot? So I'm asking a lot of questions, but in order so I can answer them and try to cover as many as questions that possibly can come up. But nevertheless, one can ask, how is Hashem? He's not doing all the mitzvot, and this is one example out of many. That what we said, that if Hashem is as a Kohen, how did he bury Moshe Rabbeinu? And needless to say, that bring us more questions and more questions in regards to that Hashem is not doing all the mitzvot. Now, to start not only answering it, but to see what we learn from that, is we have to understand. Let's go to the beginning. In the beginning of the Torah, we see that the Torah starts with the letter Bet. Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'et haaretz. You would think that the Torah will start with the letter Aleph. That makes more sense. Aleph is the first letter. Let the Torah starts with the first letter. Why didn't it start with the letter Aleph? And and not only that, Bet is kind of a problematic letter. And first of all, it would make sense that the Torah would start with the letter Aleph. But more than that, why is the letter a problematic letter? There is a story about a certain king. His name was Talmai, and he was the king of Egypt. He wanted to translate the Torah to 70 languages. Mainly, he wanted to translate the Torah to his language, but he wanted to translate the Torah. What did he do? He brought 70 elderlies from our nation, and he says, okay, I want you now you will translate it to English, you'll translate it to Spanish, you'll translate it to Greek. I want you to translate the Torah. But he knew that they might be tricking him if they would be all sitting together. Maybe there's in the Torah something that he doesn't like. I mean, that's the problem of many of the nations, that when they wanted to learn the Torah, they were afraid that there's going to be things in the Torah that are hidden from them and maybe distorted. And so this king wanted to make sure that the Torah is going to be translated exactly how it is, to see if there's anything against him, against many other nations. People were very curious or jealous, or maybe there's something that we need to know. You always want to know what when you write something and somebody's like, what are you writing there? And you close the book, no, I'm not telling you. So it makes you even more want to see what you're writing there. Nevertheless, he takes 70 old people, 70 elderlies, not old because of their passport, elderlies of their nation, smart and wise, and tells them, translate for me the Torah. But he separated them all, so they're not going to be together. That maybe will be a conspiracy that they'll say, hey guys, let's change a few lines here. And first, he wanted it to be translated to Greek, to Yevanit. It was at that time, I think I even told you that story at the time of Chanukah. But nevertheless, right when the Torah starts, they already have a problem. Because the Torah says, Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim. If you listen to the words in Hebrew, it sounds like Bereshit is a God, and it says Bereshit bara Elokim. Bereshit created God. If you listen to the words in Hebrew, if you follow the words in Hebrew, right? Because Bereshit is in the beginning, but it says in the beginning, in the beginning created God. That's how the right translation. Again, Bereshit bara Elokim, that's the first three words in the Torah. Bereshit is in the beginning, bara created, Elokim is God. So if somebody reads it the wrong way, you know how it can be interpreted? Bereshit created God, meaning somebody called Bereshit created God. That's going to be a big problem now. There's two gods, chas v'shalom. So it doesn't sound well in any other language. In English, in Hebrew, it makes sense that in the beginning, Hashem has created the world. What did they do? Was a miracle. And some type of a divine power, the Ruach HaKodesh, all 70 men changed it the exact same way. The Midrash actually says that about 10 or 15 places, they all changed, but there was a miracle and they all changed it exactly the same. So they changed in this part that instead of Bereshit bara Elokim, they translated Elokim bara Bereshit. God created in the beginning, which is the right way to sound in other languages. In Hebrew, it doesn't sound the right way. In Hebrew, it has to be the opposite. In the beginning, in Hebrew, it will be translated, in the beginning, God has created. But in English, it doesn't sound so right. But anyways, it was a miracle, and they all switched it. And there's a few other places. So that's why the letter Bet was problematic, because that's how it starts the Torah. There's another place, just for another example, that a few parashot ago, if you remember, we learned about all the kosher animals and unkosher animals, and the Torah is talking about 4 animals that are not kosher, and they're very deceiving because they have the signs of kosher animals, but they're not kosher. And one of them is a pig, a camel, and I don't know the words in English is arnav and shafan. I think it's a bunny and a rat, but it has a more professional words in English. I think one of them is a hare, and the other one is a oxyus, I think, auction, something like that. It's 2 types of like a bunnies. Not octopus. But anyways, like a rabbit. But nevertheless, in Hebrew it's called arnevet. And this is the name, like a rabbit. And they changed that because the king's Talmai, his wife's name was Arnevet, and they didn't want him to think it's talking about 4 unkosher animals, and he will get upset. So they also changed the name of Arnevet. So even in all the translation, they didn't translate it with that word. But anyways, there's a longer story. I'm just telling you the part how you see why Bet was as a little bit of a problematic letter. But nevertheless, I don't remember exactly, it was maybe 10 or 12, maybe 15 places in the Torah that they all changed it the same way. So, and that's the other one that the Gemara says, the Talmud says that his wife's name was Arnevet. Arnevet is a rabbit and non-kosher. But anyways, so why did Hashem started the Torah with the letter Bet, if this is the situation? So the explanation is kind of going to shed some light on what we started talking, because it says the letter Bet means also 2, because in numerical value Aleph is 1 and Bet is 2, and our Torah, what we have here, is the second Torah. In Hebrew, in spoken Hebrew, to say the letter Bet is a common way in proper Hebrew for the word the second. I mean, Israelis don't really use it, but proper Hebrew, when you want to say the second one, you won't say necessarily Hashanit, the second, you would say Bet. Bet is like the second one. So the reason why this Torah is starting with the letter Bet, because it's the second Torah. There's basically 2 Torahs. One of them is the Torah that we know of, and the first Torah is the spiritual Torah that belongs in the world above, before it came down to this world. Now, our physical Torah, we got in Mount Sinai, and that's the Torah that we know. And what's in this Torah? Stories, historical facts, a lot of laws, and so forth. But before that, there's the original Torah that belongs in the world above, the spiritual Torah. And this belongs to the Olamot Elyonim, to the worlds above. So the first one, Aleph, belongs to the world above, and Bet belongs to the world below. That's why the second Torah, so to say, the physical Torah, started with the letter Bet. This is one explanation out of many. And, even David HaMelech, he calls this Torah, in Hebrew it's called Mashal HaKadmoni. In English, to translate it, he says, our Torah is the parable for the original Torah. That there's the original Torah, and in order to explain it, it has to be explained in parables, because our physical mind will never understand it. So the Torah came down into the world in a form of parables. So that's why we see a lot of the Torah as stories, even though the story actually happened. We know 100%, there's no question here, that the stories actually did happen. But nevertheless, King David calls the Torah Mashal HaKadmoni, the parable for the original Torah. Now, so this kind of sheds light of how can it be that when the souls are learning Torah in Gan Eden, and the Torah that we know is physical, but they're learning the original Torah that is above the physical. Now, to give them a little bit more of an example, how they're connected to each other, because chas v'shalom, somebody can interpret and say, whoa, you coming and telling me that there are two Torahs? That sounds very, very scary. I mean, this can sound heretic. But what do you mean there's two Torot? There's one Torah. We know there's only one Torah. Why are you coming and telling me there's two? So we're going to explain it a little bit more in depth. What does it mean? Chas v'shalom. It's not that there's two entities. But we know there's the spiritual Torah and the physical Torah. To explain it a little bit more clear, we'll take physical mitzvah. Now I mentioned before about the physical mitzvot. I said tefillin, I said tzitzit, mezuzah. A lot of the mitzvot are more connected to men, so we'll take a mitzvah that everybody can do, a physical mitzvah, and this is an actual mitzvah from the Torah, is to give a loan to somebody. The Torah tells you, if you can give somebody a loan because they are in financial stress, or they want to start a business, or buy a home, or they just need a loan, it's actually a mitzvah to give them the money, and of course, you're not allowed to charge interest for that. This is against the Torah. But it's considered a big mitzvah to give somebody, to loan somebody money, to start a business, buy a house and so forth, or just to help them out. And not only that, the Torah also says, and when you do give the loan, don't be like a creditor. Where's my money? Where's my money? Give it with all your heart, and when you have it, please pay it back. So, and this is a physical mitzvah. I'm taking money and I'm giving it to you. This is not in my intellect, it's not with my heart, it's an actual physical mitzvah, because I'm taking my own money and I'm giving it to you. Now, really what happens in this mitzvah? Yes, physically I'm giving you money, but what really is happening when I'm doing this mitzvah? I'm giving the person that I lended the money, I'm giving them power. I'm giving them over certain power. Because right now, again, take the idea of the mitzvah, is that a person says, listen, I don't have money to buy this house, or I don't have money to start a business. No problem, here's the money. What am I doing basically? I'm giving that person power. Bechlal, we know that money is power. This is, unfortunately, that's the whole world is running after money. Because at the end of the day, money is power. Look at now big countries and governments, they're all after money and control because everybody wants power. At the end of the day, it's power. At the end of the day, the corruption of the world is power because people want to be the ones who are holding control. And unfortunately, money is one of the most evil ways to have control. But nevertheless, when I'm giving a person a loan, I'm basically spiritually giving that person power to do something. Now he has the power to open the business, to buy the house, to buy the car, whatever it is. So, bechlal, even in this world, we know that money is power. Now, the spiritual aspect of the mitzvah of a loan is that I'm giving the potential of power to somebody else. In this world, if you're looking at the same mitzvah, in the physical world, I gave you money. So you can start a business, buy a car, and so forth. But in the spiritual aspect of this mitzvah, I have given you part of my power, and I'm giving it to you so you can generate new power. This is if you're looking at it in a very refined way. And not only that, now you have the ability to take this potential and to bring it into fruition. So this is a very simple explanation how a physical mitzvah in this world works in a certain way, and in the spiritual world it works in a completely different way. Now, I'll give you another example. This is even more physical. Take the mitzvah of Tefillin. Tefillin is these two boxes that we put one of them on our head and we put one of them on our hand. In the actual box, if you ever wondered what's inside of it, is parchments. It's little parchments and different parts of the Torah. Shema Yisrael, Vayayim Shamoa. On the Tefillin of the head there are 4 parchments, and the Tefillin of the hand is one long parchment. But nevertheless, what's the idea behind Tefillin? Is that physically there's many explanations to that. But spiritually, what's the mitzvah of Tefillin spiritually? Is that when I put it on the Tefillin on my head, is to soften my head, so to say. In Hebrew it's called lishabed, is that I give over my intellect. And when I put it on my heart, is to give over my heart. That's what spiritually the explanation of Tefillin is. That when I put Tefillin on my head, so to say, the Tefillin is affecting my intellect and my heart. But the spiritual explanation is that I give over both my intellect and my soul. So the spiritual aspect of the mitzvah is that I'm giving my soul, which is in my head, and my heart to Hashem. And I'm giving it over. This is called a shabed. Now, it says that when the Kadosh Baruch Hu puts tefillin on, then he has the thought that the people who sit and learn Torah all day long, then he compares them to the tefillin of the head. And the people who are serve Hashem in their heart, some people, all day long they learn Torah, and they're missing a very big part of Avodat Hashem. They don't have any heart there. They might be genius in the Torah, but they don't know how to work on their midot. And the midot is their attributes. And what would be the result is that you have a genius in the Torah, but they still have issues with anger and jealousy, and they're rude, they're inconsiderate, they're vulgar, loud, and so forth, but genius in the Torah. Why? Because all their avodah, all their service is in the intellect level. Some people, they're not so knowledgeable in the Torah, but they work on themselves, they work on their characteristic, they work on their anger and their frustration and their jealousy and being impatient, and they're, what we call it, a mensch. So some people, and now to have both of them, that's the ultimate, is that you have both. Even the Mishnah says that you have to have derech eretz and Torah. So derech eretz is just being a mensch, being a polite person that works on yourself. And we all have bad character traits. We all deal with certain character traits that are not so great. We all have some anger that is sometimes out of control. Sometimes hard for us to control our jealousy, being judgmental, impatient, and so forth. There's many, many bad midot, bad character traits. But a lot of people, their refinement is in the heart. And this is specifically the spirit now, the spirit of the Omer. That's what we're focusing on, is refining my heart, my midot. In the next class we're going to learn about Tzfirat HaOmer. That's what we're concentrating on now for 7 weeks. Because it's not enough just to learn Torah. If you just learn Torah all day long and you refining your intellect, our brain can be refined like a sharp knife when we learn Torah. That's why we learn a lot of Torah. It's refining our intellect. But if you're not working simultaneously with your heart, you becoming I call it an arrogant genius. So you know a lot of stuff in the Torah, but there's no midot here. So nevertheless, the Kadosh Baruch Hu has in his thought that the people who just learn Torah are like the tefillin of the head, and the people who, it's called Ovdei Lev, they're working on their heart, this is the tefillin of the hand. But nevertheless, if you want to compare it again, the physical mitzvah is when a man puts tefillin in the morning. I'm not talking about the spiritual aspect in this world. The physical part is when I have the tefillin on my head and the tefillin on my heart, on my hand, it's next to my heart, is to basically give over my intellect to the Kadosh Baruch Hu and give over my heart. Is to bring me to a point that I'm, so to say, soften, that when I'm thinking, it's directed to the Torah, not according to my opinion. And to my heart, same thing, that it's softening my attributes. But spiritually, looking at that, again, it's comparing to two levels of serving Hashem, that I take my soul and I take my heart and I give it over to God. So this is again the physical and the spiritual aspect of the mitzvot. And like this you can go over through all the mitzvot. There's always going to be the physical explanation of the mitzvah here in this world. You know, we wear tzitzit, men wear tzitzit, the garment with the strings. So it says, so we can look at it and it will remind us all the 613 mitzvot. It's a reminder. But in the spiritual world, I don't need to do that in the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, it will have a completely different significance. But nevertheless, when I'm saying there's two Torot, there's how it's originated in the world above, then it has to do in the spiritual worlds, and how it has to do in the world below, and how it's manifested into the world, and how it's affecting us. Now, we'll give another example. There is a mitzvah in the Torah. By the way, we do have 613 mitzvot from the Torah, and another 7 mitzvot from the sages, totaling 620. The majority of the mitzvot right now in our generation we can't even do, because first of all, a large amount of the mitzvot in the Torah are only for priests. A very large amount. Then, a large amount of the mitzvot is only when we have the land of Israel. The fact that we live here now is unbelievably amazing, but we still don't have the land because we're still in exile. So many of the mitzvot we don't do. We don't do the mitzvot of Turmot and Masrot. I mean, we do it rabbinical, but we don't do the physical mitzvot. Now we don't have a king, we don't have Bet HaMikdash, we don't have sacrifices. So around 60, 70, even more percent of the mitzvot from the 613 mitzvot we can't even do. Just there are dozens of mitzvot with sacrifices. We don't do it yet. So very soon Mashiach is going to come. We're going to do it, everything. But nevertheless, there is a mitzvah for the priests that you have to slaughter animals and offer them on the altar. This is a physical mitzvah, to take a cow, a bull, a sheep, slaughter it and skin it and put it on the altar. Now, how is that going on in the world above? And a very large amount of the mitzvot are around the korbanot, and there's a lot of mitzvot in them. It's not just slaughtering the animal. It's how you skin it, how you take the blood and sprinkle it in certain ways. A lot of mitzvot have to do with it. How is that going to do reflecting in the world above? There is a power of charity. It's called chesed, a power of kindness in the world above. Now that we're counting the Omer, we're constantly mentioning all these midot, chesed, gvura, tiferet. Bechlal, when we're learning a lot of the mystical part of the Torah, we mention a lot all the sfirot, the emanations from the world above. These are just tools how the Kadosh Baruch Hu interacts with the world. It's almost like you see like a scientist when they work under a microscope, so they put their hands in these two huge gloves and they're like kind of operating something very small. Hashem, in order for him to govern and control the world, that he needed these 10 sfirot, these 10 emanations to control the world, how to govern the world. I mean, if you want to look at it in a more poetic way, some of you will relate with it even more. If I want to paint a picture, I need colors. If I don't have colors, I can have the best canvas in the world, the best paint brushes, but I need colors. Now if I only have one color, how would the picture look? If I only have the color white, then I have a white picture. That's going to be a pretty boring picture. So since I need a beautiful picture, I have 10 colors. Now if you take these 10 colors Take the blue and the red, put them together, we'll make already a purple. And take the green and the yellow, we'll make already a total different color. You start mixing them together, and before you know it, you have a picture with hundreds of shades. So you can compare these 10 sfirot to different colors. When a Kadosh Baruch Hu is a painter and an artist and he wants to paint the world, he uses the sfirot in a certain way to paint the world. This is just a metaphorical way, because the sfirot work in a completely different way, which I explained once in a different way. It's more like light being projected on a screen, like once they used to project videos with a projector with beams of light. Same idea. But nevertheless, stick to the parable of the painter. Then Hashem is using 10 pigments of colors, but when he mixes the pigments together, like today we're counting Chesed Shebehod, so you're taking this color and this color, putting them together, will give you a total different color. And then before you know it, you have a whole spectrum of colors, hundreds of different shades, then you can paint a beautiful picture. So the Kadosh Baruch Hu is using these sfirot to create the world. One of the sfirot, one of the powers is called Chesed. Chesed is kindness. And not only that, we explained many times that Chesed is also love. But there is a spiritual kindness. In this world, kindness, you need help, I'll come and help you. This is kindness. But there's also a spiritual kindness. And the spiritual aspect of the sacrifices, because a lot of people say, I don't understand this whole ritual. It doesn't look holy at all. It doesn't look so godly at all. If you really look at what's going on in the Beit HaMikdash, I mean, it's like a butcher. And it doesn't sound so good if you really go through all the explanation what's going on there. But nevertheless, the spiritual aspect of the korbanot, of the sacrifices, since Hashem, we said, is a kohen, is a priest, then he floods the world with chesed, with kindness. If the world wouldn't have any kindness, well, how would this world look? The world would look like a chaos. So when Hashem took the sfirot, chesed, gvura, tiferet, and so forth, to create the world, then he's taking one midah, one aspect of it, and he's putting a lot of it. I can now make a certain dish. If I will put a lot of sugar in it, it will be a very sweet dish. I will put a lot of pepper in it, it will be spicy. I will put a lot of salt, it will be salty. So the Kadosh Baruch Hu takes the midah of chesed, of kindness and love, and he showers the world with kindness and love. If not, the world would not be able to exist. This is the idea, again, of behind the sacrifices and the mitzvah of being a Kohen. So, to kind of conclude it, every mitzvah has the physical part of it, and it also has the spiritual part of it, the meaning behind it. Since we are in a physical world, we can't relate with things that are spiritual. So it goes through some type of a transformation. And this transformation goes in a descending chain that slowly becomes more physical, till we get something physical here. So right now, since we want to connect to the root, so we're doing the manifestation of the root, so it becomes physical. So we do the physical act, but it's connected to its root, to the spiritual part. Therefore, every mitzvah has a surface, a part of it that is completely physical, and there's the root of it, which is completely spiritual. That's why do we like learning Kabbalah and Zohar and Chassidut? Because it starts explaining to me in depth the mystical part of the physical mitzvah. When I became observant, they told me, put tefillin on. Why? Tell me not to steal. Okay, that makes sense. Tell me not to kill. Okay, let me think for a few seconds. Okay, that makes sense. I might want to kill a mosquito, but killing a mosquito is also killing, by the way. It is. Killing is killing. You don't have to. You can go like that. And but nevertheless, we're not going to go now to the technical part of it. You know, for example, the Arizal, he wouldn't kill even a mosquito. The Arizal, one of the great teachers of teachings of Kabbalah, he wouldn't kill anything, not flies, not mosquitoes, no anything. He just shoot them off. But nevertheless, when the Torah says you should not kill, it doesn't say what I should not kill. It just says lo tirtzach, 2 words, don't kill. So I can give you now 5,000 scenarios of killing. How? What do you mean killing? But nevertheless, when you say to certain people, do a certain mitzvah, okay, makes sense, I'm not going to do it. But you tell a person, don't mix meat and dairy. Huh? Why? Don't mix wool and linen. You know, we're not allowed to mix wool and linen. This is a prohibition from the Torah. Mix, I mean put it in a jacket. I can't have a jacket that is wool and linen together. Why? So half the mitzvot, if not more, or if more, 80% of them, we don't know why we do them. And even if something as simple as don't steal, I can understand the physical part, but there's also a much more deeper explanation of not to stealing. I'm taking somebody else's energy. It's not about stealing his possession. If you want to look at it in a very refined way, when I steal something that belongs to you, I take some of your energy, some of your essence. Then now you're in a deficiency. You're not functioning in the right way. Maybe I'm stealing here your money. But even in the spiritual way, there's a very significant part here. But nevertheless, that's why we like learning the mystical part of the Torah, because it starts shedding light on everything that we're doing. And when you understand why you're not allowed to do or you're allowed to do, makes a completely different picture. And then things start making more sense. And needless to say, the closer we come to Mashiach is going to come and expose everything. We're going to really understand every little bit why the Torah tells us. But to kind of summarize it in one sentence is that the Torah is in its source. And since it's very spiritual and very not connected to this world, it goes through thousands, not a few, thousands of stages, how it manifests into this world, and then we get a physical mitzvah. Look in Sukkot, soon, the next holiday will be Sukkot, we're going to be shaking a lulav. I'm taking a lemon? It's not a lemon, it's an etrog, but it looks like a lemon. My kids always say, Abba, why you buy a 300 shekel lemon? But nevertheless, I'm taking a piece of a fruit. This is such a huge, what am I shaking the worlds about with a lemon? So, and again, it's not a lemon, it's an etrog. But nevertheless, there's always the physical part of the mitzvah, that what I see and correspond to, and then there's the spiritual part of it. Now, the same thing is also in the Torah. There's the Torah that I can relate with, but there's the original part of the Torah, the root of it in this world above, and that's where we're scratching the surface. When we learn some teachings of Kabbalah and Zohar, I'm really scratching the surface. I'm not even going into the depth of it because my mind is not able to understand that. Very great minds, people who learn 40, 50, 60 years, they start going into more depth of even what people teaching now in the world, Kabbalah and Zohar. That's the introduction of the introduction of the introduction of the introduction. It's not even the depth of it. So, but nevertheless, this is the same way in the Torah. Now there is an example that kind of explains it in an even more profound and nicer way. There is a famous halachic argument in the Talmud about two men that are holding a talit. This is a very famous Talmudic argument that it says Shtayim ochzim betalit. Two men are holding a talit. One says it's my talit, one says it's my talit. Now just imagine two men coming here to the shul, they want to start praying, they see a talit. One guy comes, takes the talit. The other one says, whoa, it's mine. What are you doing? No, it's mine. No, it's mine. What does it say it's yours? It's mine. I was here. They start arguing. This is a common argument. Now this is a very famous Talmudic argument. So it's called Shtayim ochzim betalit. Two are holding a talit. Now, how, again, this is, why am I giving this example? Because we mentioned that we learn Torah all day long in Gan Eden. Now here in this world, if I learn Talmud, some people learn 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours a day just Talmud, and some people learn it in such depth that they will take them, not exaggerating, months to go through one page. Months to go through one page. I mean, you can read through the page. Some people read 2 or 3 pages a day, but this is just reading it. It's not really learning it. We're learning here one of the tractates. We're learning already maybe for 4 months. We're only in the 8th page because you can learn so much in depth into it. But it's all physical things. So how is that happening in the world above in Gan Eden? So this is a perfect example. In the physical world, what is a talit? It's a garment. But in the spiritual aspect of it, the talit is a mitzvah. It's not here it's a garment, but in the spiritual part of it, it's a mitzvah, right? It's a commandment. Now, we know that all the mitzvot that we do in this world, they're garments to the soul. Most people, you go to their wardrobe, you'll find there are at least 30, 40, 50, 60 types of garments. There's going to be dresses, pants, trousers, where it depends from where you come from. Not too long ago I was in England, and I was giving a lecture and I kept saying pants, and they're all like looking at me like, what is he talking about? Till I found out they don't say pants, they say trousers. So nevertheless, they didn't get my joke. I was saying some joke and I was like, pants, and they're like... So nevertheless, you open a wardrobe of somebody, there's many types. First of all, there's many types. You'll find many types of garments: socks, underwear, trousers, dresses, shirts, jackets, and so forth. But even from the same type, there's many. I don't know a person that has one shirt. Most people have 20 shirts, 40 shirts. Some people have 50 shirts. The soul also has garments. The soul is not doesn't like being naked. And the garments of our soul is all the mitzvot. The mitzvot that we do is we're tailoring garments to our soul. That one day when the soul goes up to the heavens, it has garments. Now, how can we relate with it? You wake up in the morning, you around the house, you're wearing, some around the house clothes. Then you go to work, you wear a certain outfit. Afternoon, you go work out, you wear a workout outfit. Then in the evening, you go to a party, you wear a beautiful outfit. Once a blue moon, you go to a big wedding, you wear a very expensive outfit. Your outfit changes according to where you go, according to your mood, needless to say, according to your budget. Same thing here in the world above, the soul needs garments. And the same way that you have garments in this world, the soul needs garments, and the mitzvot are garments. And every mitzvah that I do is one piece of a garment. And one day when I come up to Shamayim, I groom myself with beautiful garments, and the same way here you wear a beautiful, beautiful suit, a beautiful dress, and everybody's like, wow, where'd you get that? Don't ask, it was a sale. But nevertheless, same thing here. The souls, they look at each other, they see these beautiful garments, these are the mitzvot. I mean, you can do a mitzvah with a lot of excitement, you can do a mitzvah with just to do it. So, same thing here, you can wear an expensive shirt and a cheap shirt. Nevertheless, the soul has garments and the mitzvot are garments. Now, to explain this Talmudic argument that two are holding a talit and arguing, it's my talit, they're arguing over a garment in this world. But in the spiritual world, two souls are going up to the world above. And they come to the heavenly court. And when you come to the heavenly court, you present, these are all my mitzvot. You're cutting the coupons. They're giving you the reward right now. Two souls come up to the heavens, and they're holding one mitzvah. And one soul says, it's my mitzvah, I did it. The other soul says, no, it's my mitzvah, I did this. No, it's my mitzvah, it's my mitzvah. They're fighting who did the mitzvah, because we can share mitzvot. We can do together a mitzvah. Right? We can share a mitzvah. So the souls are arguing who the mitzvah belongs to, who will get the reward. Now in the physical world, in the Talmudic argument, it says, one says kula sheli, one says kula sheli. One says it's all mine, the other one says it's all mine. Then there's another argument in this Talmudic argument. One says one says kula sheli, it's all mine. The other one says chetzia sheli, only half of it is mine, when they stand in front of the judge. And the third is, one says 3/4 of mine, and the other one says 1/4 is mine. This is the three types of arguments in the Talmudic argument. But nevertheless, when you compare it to the spiritual world, is that there's a soul can argue, wait a minute, it's my mitzvah, I did this mitzvah. No, I did this mitzvah, I did this mitzvah. So the same argument that we're learning in the physical world, the argument can be in the world above in a spiritual way. Now, of course, every mitzvah can be interpreted in a very spiritual way. You can take now a physical mitzvah and say, don't steal. Okay, you explained it to me in the physical way. Don't steal, it's not nice, it's not yours. Don't break into somebody's house and steal something, or don't cheat somebody. but there's always going to be a much higher level of explaining that mitzvah. And I don't have, with so many examples, but we're kind of running out of time. But I think throughout the couple months, last months, I did always touch a certain mitzvah, what was the physical part of it, and what was the spiritual meaning behind it. Because when you understand the spiritual meaning, it makes a whole different thing. Now, every mitzvah can be explained and interpreted in the spiritual way, but there are 4 ways to explain the mitzvah. We mentioned so many times that there are 4 levels to explaining the Torah, and it's called Pardes. Pardes is an acronym of Pshat, Remez, Drash, Sod. Pshat is the literal sense, literal explanation. The Remez is a hint. Drash is the deeper explanation, and Sod is the secret. These are the 4 levels how everything can be interpreted. And there is a Talmud, there is a Gemara that says that 4 people entered into the orchard. Now, it's not talking about the orchard of oranges. Rather, they entered to the deeper level of the explanation of the Torah. It's talking about these 4 individuals. One of them is called Rabbi Akiva, very famous. Another one is called Elisha. Another one is called Ben Azai. And another one is called Ben Zoma. These are the 4 Tanaim, 4 sages that are like, okay, let's do it. Let's go into the beyond, to the world of secrets. And they entered into the Pardes. It says that one of them, Ben Zoma, he just peeked in, v'nifga, right away got hurt. The second one, Ben Azai, he tzitz v'met, he looked in and died right on the spot. The third one, whose name is Elisha, he went cuckoo, completely lost his mind. He went completely off off his charts. The Talmud says, Kotzetz benetiyot. He completely lost his mind, and the only one who went in peace, went out in peace, and that's Rabbi Akiva. Nichnas b'shalom, yetza b'shalom. He didn't affect him. But nevertheless, the more deeper explanation to it, they were very high level Talmudic sages. And they learned the surface. They wanted to learn the more deeper and inner or exalted dimension of the Torah. Just imagine in their level how they learned the Torah, but they didn't even touching a different dimension, just the dimension of this world. In our generation, everybody wants to jump directly into the deeper dimension. Give me the Kabbalah. Why are you giving me now the mitzvah? Give me the juice. That the problem is that when you don't have the right preparation, then you don't get anything. But chas v'shalom, like in the example in the Talmud, can hurt you. Person can go completely, either like Elisha, can go completely crazy, and some people do. When they go too deep, too fast, they lose their mind. Literally lose their mind. I'm not saying it as a joke. They become completely crazy, mamash crazy. And chas v'shalom, the Talmud gives 3 options. One died, one got hurt, and one got crazy. But they wanted to learn the deeper dimension of the Torah. Now, many in our generation will tell you, no, you're not allowed to learn Kabbalah, this is dangerous, don't do it, you have to be 40 years old. And by the way, when it says you have to be 40 years old, not 40 years in your passport. It actually means that you have to learn Torah for 40 years. And after 40 years that you learn Torah, you're ready to go really start going into the depth of it. But nevertheless, there are many in our generation that are very against learning Kabbalah and Zohar because they're like, this is not for us. The Torah is not for you to know the inner dimension of the Torah. Stick with baby steps. Do the physical part. Then go to a higher dimension. But nevertheless, it's a very needed dimension. It has to be learned in the right way. It has to be learned with the right teacher, with the right guide, and not to go too deep inside, and that you can actually understand what it means. But nevertheless, this story in the Gemara, that's what they want. They wanted to learn the inner dimension. So there is a much deeper dimension of the Torah. We are now here dealing with the physical part of it, but there are much more levels to it, and there are infinite amount of levels. Now, to kind of summarize it, is that we want to understand what does it mean that the Kadosh Baruch Hu is doing mitzvot? What does it mean that the souls are learning Torah in Gan Eden? And there's a story that I like a lot that kind of sheds some light about the idea of how the world above is affecting the world below. But a couple hundred years ago, there was a certain tzaddik, is known as the Baal Tanya, Rabbi Shneor Zalman from Liadi, and he was a very, very high-level neshama. And one time he got arrested by the government, and they knew he's a very, very wise and unique individual, and they wanted to really see his powers. They were actually very afraid of him, but nevertheless, they locked him in a room for days, but there was no windows and no lights. Because they were like, okay, after a couple of days, he's going to lose count of what's day, what's night. And they wanted to see really his power, because any normal human being, put him in a closed room, no windows and no light, after a couple of days, falling asleep, waking up, you don't have a watch, you lose track of time, and you don't know what time, if it's day or night. That's what they did. And they wanted to confuse the hour. Then after a while, they walked in, and they told him, why are you doing whatever he was doing right now? It's the night right now. He told them, no, it's not. It's not night. It's in the afternoon. They're like, really? Why? You know what time it is? So he told them, it's 5 minutes to 2. They're like, how do you know? They were shocked. How do you know that it's, no, forget about that you know it's day and not night. How do you know it's 5 minutes to 2? 5 minutes to 2. So he told them it's very, very simple, because every hour of the day has a certain combination of the name of Hashem shining in the universe. We learned that in the Zohar class a few months ago, that I think we even learned it in one of the classes here, that I presented the question, was a tricky question, and everybody failed. And I asked, how many hours are during the day? Everybody says 24. I said, that's wrong. There's 12 hours in the day. 12 hours at night and 12 hours in the day. There's not 24 hours a day. But nevertheless, there are 12 hours in the day and 12 hours in the night. This together makes 24 hours, and we call it a day. But nevertheless, in the 12 hours of the day, it shines a certain light from the name of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei. And every hour, there's a different combination of the letters. We know the combination Yud, and then a Hey, and then a Vav, and then a Hey. This is one combination. But you can switch the order. It can be a Hey, and then a Vav, and then a Yud, and then a Hey. Total different combination. So every hour of the 12 hours of the day, the letters switch their order, and a certain godly revelation affects the world. And in the 12 hours of the night, there are 12 combinations of Hashem's name, Aleph, Daled, Nun, Yud. What we say Ado, and then we finish it with Nai. But you switch the letters. We know Aleph, Daled, Nun, Yud, but you switch the letters, Nun, Yud, Aleph, Daled, different combination. So we have 12 and 12 types of combination. 12 combinations of the letters of Yud, Kei, Vav, Kei, and 12 combinations of the name of Hashem, Aleph, Daled, Nun, Yud, and it changes. That's why you see that even the light in the day is different. The light at 7 o'clock in the morning and the light and 12 o'clock in the afternoon is a different type of light. Now we attribute it to the sun, saying, oh, well, the sun is right now over here, and right now the sun is over there. It's nothing to do with the sun. It has to do with the combination of the Hashem's name. Nevertheless, then he answered them, because I'm not looking at the physical world to tell you what the time. I see the world above and how the order of the letters are, so I know according to the order of the letters exactly what time it is. I don't need to look at the world below. And the same thing, there was another story in this exact same time, that there was what's his name? The king then, that they were very, very afraid of him, because they knew he's a very powerful individual. So the king wanted to see him, and he didn't want him to know he's the king. So he got dressed in regular clothes, and he walked into his room. And the second he walked into his room, first of all he stood up, the Baal Tanya stood up, and then he said a certain blessing. There's a certain blessing that you say when you see a king. that the blessing is Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, that you shared your honor with a human being. There's a certain blessing that you say when you see a king. A physical king is a real blessing that we say. So he told him, how do you know that why do you think I'm a king? He says, I know you are the king. But you never met me. You never know who it is. It's not like today everybody knows how the president looks. He's like, how do you know? He's like, well, every king in the world below is Hashem gave him the power to be a king, even if he's an evil king. And every king in the world below has a minister in the world above that escorts him. And when you walked in, I saw your minister coming in, and right away I understood you are a king. So, but this story just comes to emphasize that everything is happening in the world above way before it's happening in the world below. We just see the cover of the world below. So we see the mitzvot as physical. We see the Torah as how we see the Torah. But something exists in a much higher realm, and that's the root, that's the original. That's why I mentioned before about the two Torah. It's not two, it's one Torah, just one is in the root. And then when we want to understand how the Kadosh Baruch Hu is doing all the mitzvot, is because there's a spiritual aspect to it, and therefore he can do it. That's how we can learn Torah all day long in the world above, because there's the spiritual part of it, not the physical part. The physical part, okay, that's the manifestation. So now comes the question, so how come the Kadosh Baruch Hu is not doing all the mitzvot? I mean, we said that Midrash says that he does all the mitzvot. But nevertheless, he does all the mitzvot. And when I say that the Kadosh Baruch Hu is a Kohen, and how did he bury Moshe Rabbeinu, then first of all, there is a mitzvah of likvor, to bury somebody. It's even a Kohen, if a Kohen walks in the path and he sees a dead body, he is actually allowed to bury it. This is called kvurat met, a mitzvah of burying a dead body, and a Kohen is allowed to do it. He's not allowed to sometimes bury his own siblings, but a person that just the body is thrown on the sidewalk is allowed to do that. But nevertheless, the reason why the Kadosh Baruch Hu was able to bury Moshe Rabbeinu, because impurity only touches something physical. There isn't such a thing as impurity in the world above. So the Kadosh Baruch Hu wasn't wouldn't get the impurity. Now, there's a story, we'll just finish with a story that we like learning here by the men's program. We learn every day the teachings of Elimelech from Lizhansk. Elimelech from Lizhansk. He's known as the Noam Elimelech. If you follow our videos online, you'll see every day there's a video go up about the weekly parasha, and he was a great tzaddik about 200 years ago, and he has a book called the Noam Elimelech, and he's a third generation student of the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov started the Hasidic movement, and later on he had a student, Menachem Mendel from Horadok, that later on everybody thought he will be the next one, but it was another individual, Magid from Mazrij. He became the next leader of the Hasidic movement, and he had a yeshiva, and all these great names from the Hasidic dynasties are all coming from the same yeshiva. They all went to Mazrij to learn from the Magid. And all these big names that we know, Levi Yitzchak from Berdichov, Reb Zusha from Anipoli, and one of them is Elimelech from Lizhansk. And they used to be called by their name and where they came from. Like Levi Yitzchak from Berdichov, he came from a city called Berdichov. And Elimelech came from Lizhansk, from a city in Poland called Lizhansk. Nevertheless, he unbelievable tzaddik, teachings is unbelievable. And every day when we learn here with the men's program, we learn a portion from the parasha, from what he teaches, but you can find them all online. But nevertheless, he was also a dayan. Dayan is a Jewish judge in a Jewish court. And one time he's sitting in his Beit Din, in his office. A man barges in and he starts screaming and he says, I want to sue the Kadosh Baruch Hu. I'm suing God. Okay, you would think that he would kick him out. This is another cuckoo that wants to sue God, but was a very content individual. Says, okay, tell me what's on your mind. Why you want to sue the master of the universe? I understand. You have a tvia, you have a lawsuit. Let's hear what you have to say. So he says, I have a daughter. The person says, I have a daughter, and for years I can't marry her off. And finally I found a groom to marry her. And I was very happy, Baruch Hashem. Finally I found a man. And at the time, the person came from Austria, the person who barged into the room. And Elimelech was sitting, he lived in Poland. Whenever that man came from Austria, and he says the Caesar made a tax, a big tax, that anybody who gets married has to pay a very high tax. That's what they used to do. They used to find all sorts of ways to put taxes on, and they came up with all these creative ways how to tax people. So he said, the Caesar made a decree that anybody who gets married has to pay a very high tax. Now, I don't have money to pay. I don't have money to pay that tax, and I don't have money to do the wedding. Now, the Kadosh Baruch Hu gives us a commandment that we have to get married. We have to be fruitful and multiple. But how is He commanding us to do something and not giving us the ability to do it? So I want to sue Him. Fair? No? You're telling me to do something. You, the Master of the universe, you tell me to get married and to be, the first commandment we got in the Torah is to prove, to be fruitful and multiple. Then I have to marry that. And if I have to marry, then if I don't have money, how am I going to marry? I need money to make a wedding. So you're giving me a commandment, but you're not giving me the means? Mm-hmm. So he says, I want to sue the Kadosh Baruch Hu. I'm suing him. Okay. Now, the way it works in the Jewish court is when the judges, has to be 3 judges in the Jewish court, and when they want to discuss the case, the people, the suer, I don't know if that's how you say it, the one who sues and the one who's being sued, they have to leave the room. So Elimelech from Nijan says, okay, we need to discuss the case, but we have a problem. We can't remove the people out of the room because Hashem is being sued here. He tells the person, you, the tovea, you are the suing. And who are you suing? You're suing Hashem. So Hashem is in this room right now too. We subpoenaed him to the case. But since we have to talk about the case, you both have to leave the room. We can't kick Hashem out of the room because he's outside too. What are we going to do? So, as all this is happening, he explains that a slave that can't get married, this is a halakha, that when a slave can't get married, you make the master release the slave. This is a halakha. And as he's saying that in front of the person, then they're announcing that the Caesar annulled the decree, and now that anybody that wants can get married. But the story was that he couldn't push him out of the room, so he couldn't continue the lawsuit. He couldn't. He says, "Listen, I can't tell you. I can't kick Hashem out of the room." But nevertheless, he comes to show us something that that's what the Noam Elimelech says. He brought the halakha that says if a slave, there's a Jewish law, if a slave can get married, then you force the master to release him. And as he was saying that, he brought down a halakha that it says in the Torah, basically saying the slave down here can get married, so they were forcing Hashem to release the slave. And as they did that, then there came the announcement that the Caesar annulled the decree. So I'm not giving you ideas to go and sue the Kadosh Baruch Hu, but nevertheless, the point is that even something physical, it's affecting in the spiritual world. So that's what the story comes to say, that even in the physical world, the spiritual world is affecting the physical world, but even the physical world is affecting the spiritual world. So, what do we want to take from that? Because the bottom line is that we want to know how to practically apply what we learn. So first of all, we want to see the educational part here, is that Hashem is telling us what to do, but He does it Himself. So just the part of the education, and we all are educators, whether it's my kids, whether it's I have students or whatever it is, I have to understand how the Kadosh Baruch Hu governs the world by He's doing what He tells us to do. So this can be applied in my own life. I want to tell my kids to do something and show them what to do. I was in the Israeli army, and one of the mottos in the Israeli army is that it says a good commander gives example to the soldier. And you want the soldier to do something good, then the commander shows you how to do it. When I want my kids to do something, I show them what to do. I don't just tell them. I always share the same story that I have 3 boys, and when my second boy was born, we have a ritual, a custom, that Friday night before the Brit Milah, we do a party, a gathering, a meal. It's called Shalom Zachar. And everybody comes, and it was Friday night. And a lot of people from the community came. We had a lot of food, and everybody was giving blessings to me. Oh, your son should be a tzaddik. He should be a lamdan, learned in the Torah. He should do this. Everybody was giving me beautiful blessings. Excuse me. Then came a big rabbi from the community, and everybody was waiting for him to say something. And then he said, "Listen, everybody gave you blessings. I'm not going to give you a blessing. I'm going to give you advice." And he says, whatever you want your son to be, you be. You want your son to pray, so you show him that you go and pray. You want your son to be machnis orchim, showing people, hosting people in his home, to be charitable, you host people in your home. You want your son to only talk truth, you only talk truth. Don't come to your son and with a list of demands. Whatever you want him to do, you be yourself. By default, he will follow you. And Bemet, that was the best advice. It was better than a blessing. It was the most smartest advice. Whatever, don't come to your kids and say, I want you to do this and that. Many people, especially in the observant world, they come to the girls, oh, cover yourself, you're not modest, you have to be dressed modest. Well, why don't you behave in a modest way? Then your daughter will look at you and she will become modest too. Whether the mother is modest, also the father can be modest. How he talks, how he behaves, how if he talks to women. Why would the child look at the father or the mother and say, you asking me to do something, why are you not doing that? I don't come to my kids and tell them, you gotta come with me to the synagogue. They see me waking up early in the morning, go to the synagogue. I can't come and tell them, wake up early, go to school. I can't come and tell, if I wake up at 10 o'clock in the morning, I can't tell them, why you late for school? Well, you woke up at 11. So just by looking at the educational part here, Hashem is doing what He tells us to do. And this in itself is something to learn, that whatever I want other people to do, you'll be the example. You can't come to people around you and start telling them what to do. Even a boss. I give an example with the kids. But even a boss, you want the workers, your followers, whatever it is, to do something, you do it, and you set the example. The second thing is that the fact that the Kadosh Baruch Hu is doing all the mitzvot is for us to understand that He gives us the power to do a mitzvah. Most people look at the mitzvahs as a burden. That's how most people look at it. They tell him, just give me the easy things. And when it comes to the rest of the stuff, again. Most people look at the mitzvot as burden. They don't look at it as a prize. Most men, you tell them to put filling on, again. I prayed yesterday. Well, again I have to pray. We don't see that the mitzvot, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving me a present. He's giving me the opportunity to participate in His creation. When you have to now, when we eat bread, we wash our hands, then we say Birkat HaMazon. Most people, you'll give them something to eat, they'll ask you, is this mezonot? Is this a motzi? No, motzi, no. I don't feel like washing. I'm not hungry anymore. Do you have anything else? So, people drive half an hour to the other side of town to buy the pizza that is mezonot, because they don't want to sit for 5 minutes and say Birkat HaMazon. If you would understand what it means to say Birkat HaMazon, it's like getting now a $500 billion check. You want a $500 billion check right now? Here, sit for 10 minutes and say Birkat Hamazon. We don't understand that. A check or Birkat Hamazon? Birkat Hamazon is benching. When we wash for bread, most people, you'll tell them, sit down, eat, wash your hands so you can say the blessing. Oh, no, I'm not hungry. So, and then they find the loophole is to eat the grain that is diluted, and then the bracha, the blessing will be mezonot. You have here an opportunity to do one of the biggest mitzvot in the universe. You don't even fathom. The Kadosh Baruch Hu is allowing you to participate in the mitzvah, and you're looking for the easy way out. So, I always give the same example that I was not too long ago in Los Angeles. It was a big lecture. One of the ladies approached me. She knows me because I used to live in Los Angeles and I used to give a class. I had every Wednesday a class. We had a lot of women. It was a very popular class. So anyway, she came. She told me, Rabbi, I need you to give me a blessing. I have a business. She does real estate. I need you to give me a blessing to make good parnasa, good money. And I told her the same what the rabbi told me in the years before. I told her, I'm not going to give you a blessing. I'll give you advice. So I'll give you a blessing. You should make a lot of money, but I will give you advice. Why don't you every morning when you eat breakfast, wash your hands, eat bread, and say Birkat Hamazon. This I guarantee to you, you'll make good money. So what do you mean? It's too long. You have something shorter? What do you mean? You just asked me for a blessing to make money. I'm giving you a secret how to make parnasa, how your business should be fruitful. 10 minutes. Just wash your hands. It's too long. I don't. You're not willing to sit for 10 minutes. I'm telling you this guarantee. I'm not making things up. Say every day Birkat Hamazon. I guarantee to you, you're going to have very good blessing in your parnasa. She wouldn't budge. I told her, I'm not telling you to now climb a mountain. I'm telling you every day. You're eating breakfast anyway. So you wash your hands. The whole thing takes 10 minutes. 5 minutes if you do it real fast. That's what it takes. And you're not willing to give that up in order to have your parnasa, you want to have good money. And I told her, I'll give you a guarantee. You live in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is the most jammed city in the world. You have to go from here to there, you're 2 hours in traffic. I told her, you must be in traffic at least 2 hours every day. You're going and showing houses and, right? You're in traffic a lot. Yeah, I told her, I guarantee to you that if you sit down and say Birkat Hamazon for 10 minutes every day, you're going to be 10 minutes less in traffic. No, she wouldn't budge. So the point is that we don't understand the present that Hashem is giving me. Before I put tefillin on, before saying the bracha, I take a moment to say to Hashem, thank you so much that you are allowing me to participate in the mitzvah. Thank you that you are allowing me. This is a merit. This is not a force. When Hashem gives you the opportunity to do a mitzvah, you have to thank Him 1,000,000 times that He's allowing you to participate. So when we learn that the Kadosh Baruch Hu is doing mitzvot, is in order to give me the energy to do the mitzvah. Where do you think I'm getting the energy? When I do something and I inspire everybody around me. So the Kadosh Baruch Hu is doing a mitzvah, so He's giving me the power, so I will have the power to do the actual mitzvah. And that's why we understand that the Kadosh Baruch Hu is doing the mitzvot, but more than that, He's showing me the importance. When I understand that Hashem is also doing the mitzvah, He's showing me how important it is. When I tell my kid, listen, it's very important to pray. I'm not expecting my kids to pray. Kids, it's very hard for them to pray. Although it's interesting because my daughter told me not too long ago that before she was bat mitzvah, she loved praying. She was like the top prayer of the class. She was like, after my bat mitzvah, she was like, it's very hard for me. It's hard for me to concentrate. I have a very big desire not to pray. I told her, well, now you have a yetzer hara, you bat mitzvah. You got your status, you got also a yetzer hara with it that pushes you away. But nevertheless, when I want to inspire my kid to do something, I don't come and pound it on their head. I show them how I'm excited to do it and how I put my mind and my focus on it. So it shows them how it's important to me, so they will learn that it's important to them. If I want them to respect me, I'm not going to come and tell them, respect your father! So when my parents come to visit me, I show, I do it with love, but I show my kids how I respect my parents, so they will see, it's so important to my father, and that goes to the next generation. So that's really what we want to take from that. But the main thing that we want to take from what we just talked about now is that we always look for meaning behind our actions. If you're doing actions and you don't find a meaning behind it, it becomes meaningless, you don't want to do the action anymore. So we have to understand that there's a meaning behind our action. And the mitzvah is not because I was commanded to do it, or because everybody in the community is doing it, so I have to, stand in line like all the ducks and do it because everybody's doing it. And not because I'm going to get a reward in the world to come, because there's a meaning behind it. And if I don't know the meaning behind it, so I have to find and explore what's the meaning behind it, because there is a meaning behind everything. And when you find meaning to your actions, then your actions become meaningful. And that's really what we want to take from that, is that to understand that you're not doing anything for free. You're not doing anything for nothing. You're not doing it because somebody ordered you. A lot of people say, but that's the rabbis made that up. Doesn't matter right now who brought it down. Even if it was brought through the rabbis, there's a meaning for that. And if you don't know the meaning, if you have difficulty in doing something, go and find out the meaning. Because when you find out the meaning, you go to the depth of it, you're like, oh, now I understand. There's something much, much deeper and greater in what I do that now will arouse me the excitement to do it, and to do it with love and excitement. And needless to say, that we want to do it because we understand what's going on right now. I want to understand that with this particular action that I do, something's going on in the world above. And in a much more deeper way, how it's affecting other people, for the good or for the bad. It will also prevent me from doing many bad things because I understand how it will affect other people. But nevertheless, we should understand that there are much more deeper explanations to everything that should arouse the excitement in us, that we should gladly and willingly serve our master, because it's a zchut, it's a privilege to serve Hashem. It's not an obligation. Hashem, if he would want, he would tell you, I don't need you to do the mitzvot. Go do whatever you want. But he loves us so much that he says, no, I want you. I don't want you to miss out. I have one of my kids that like that. Every time we're doing some family activity, I don't want to do it. It's just boring. No, you're going to have the time of your life. No, it's boring. I don't want to do it. Over Pesach, we went to ride on horses, all the family. One of the kids, it's boring. I don't want to do it. I told him, you're going to enjoy yourself so much. We had to trick him and to manipulate him because I knew he's going to enjoy it. I could have told him, you don't want to come? Stay home. Stay home, look at the wall, we're going to come back with a lot of fun. You're not. But I knew he's going to enjoy himself so much, so we literally tricked him and manipulated him to come. In the end, he had the time of his life. So we can tell him, you see, we told you. Same thing here. Hashem says, I know you want to do the mitzvah. You just right now don't want to. Right now, you are like a little spoiled brat saying, it's not going to be fun. So Hashem says, I know you want it. So the Kadosh Baruch Hu is using his methods how to make it happen, so he does it himself. Needless to say, that to give us an example, and also to summarize the next thing that we said, that how we learn Torah in the Gan Eden, is that Torah is much more deeper than what we understand. It's not necessarily the physical things. It has a much more deeper meaning to it. And needless to say that it's the wisdom of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, which is infinite. So we can sit in Gan Eden for infinite amount of time. I don't even know if you can say infinite amount of time. We just sit. You can't say that. So we just sit in Gan Eden forever and ever and enjoy the Kadosh Baruch Hu's wisdom, and B'ezrat Hashem we should merit very soon to experience it in the physical way with the coming of Mashiach. Should happen very, very soon. Have a beautiful, restful week.